Hello, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. And today we're diving into something a bit deeper, something more personal. It's a question we don't often ask while learning a language: who are you becoming in English?
Because learning a language isn't just about grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation. It's also about identity. The way you think, the way you express yourself, the version of you that shows up when you speak in English.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Sometimes, people say they feel more confident in English. Or more quiet. Or more professional. Or more playful. And it makes you realize, language doesn't just reflect who you are, it also shapes who you become.
So today, we're going to explore how English can bring out different parts of you, and why that's not something to fear, but something to get curious about.
Because maybe you're not just learning English. Maybe you're discovering a whole new layer of yourself through it.
And that discovery can feel really surprising. You might notice that you say things differently in English, not just because of the words available to you, but because you think a bit differently too.
Exactly. Like maybe in your native language, you tend to be more formal or reserved. But in English, you find yourself being more direct, more expressive, sometimes even more open emotionally.
That can feel strange at first. Some learners say, I don't feel like myself in English. But what if it's not that you're losing yourself? What if you're growing into another version of yourself?
That's a powerful shift. Because it means English isn't just something outside of you. It becomes a kind of mirror, reflecting how you change, how you adapt, how you expand.
I remember talking to someone who said, in English, I'm braver. I ask more questions. I speak up more. And I thought, that's not fake. That's a real part of her, that just had the space to come out through another language.
And I think it's important to recognize that every language invites something different out of us. A different rhythm. A different tone. Different expressions of humor, emotion, even thought patterns.
And that's not something to be afraid of. It's something to explore. To ask yourself, who am I becoming when I speak English? What parts of me feel more alive? What's easier to say? What's harder?
Because those answers tell you something not just about your English, but about you. The you that exists across languages. The you that's flexible, open, and always becoming.
And the interesting part is, sometimes we need a new language to unlock certain parts of ourselves. It's like English gives you permission to express things you didn't even know you were holding back.
Yes, I've heard people say, I find it easier to say, I'm proud of myself in English than in my native language. Or, I say things in English I wouldn't dare say otherwise. There's something freeing about it.
And that freedom doesn't mean you're being inauthentic. It just means that identity isn't fixed. You can be both, the person you are in your native language, and the person you're becoming in English.
And sometimes, the English version of you brings clarity. Like, maybe you simplify how you speak. Or you become more mindful of what you're saying. That's a kind of emotional fluency too.
I love that, emotional fluency. It's not just about being able to describe a feeling with the right word. It's about learning to face your emotions in a different way, because you're speaking them differently.
That can be powerful. Especially if you grew up in a place or culture where expressing emotion openly wasn't encouraged. English might feel like a new language and a new emotional landscape.
And that's worth honoring. Because even though it can be tiring or frustrating at times, this version of you that's forming through English, it's real. It's brave. And it's growing every time you speak.
And I think it's important to let go of the idea that your English self has to match your native language self perfectly. It doesn't. It's allowed to feel different. It's allowed to be different.
Sometimes people say, I feel like a different person in English, and they sound worried. But I don't think it has to be a bad thing. Maybe you're just discovering more sides of who you are.
Yeah, it's not that you've changed completely. It's more like you've added something. Like your identity just got a new accent, a new perspective, a new way of seeing the world.
And that can even show up in small things. Maybe in your native language you never say, "I appreciate you," but now, in English, you do. And it starts to shift the way you relate to people.
I love that. Because the words we use shape the way we think. And the way we think shapes the way we live. So of course, learning a new language will affect the way you experience life.
And maybe that's something we don't talk about enough. That language learning isn't just academic, it's emotional. It's personal. It touches things inside you that you didn't even realize were waiting to be spoken.
And the more you speak, the clearer that voice becomes. Not just your English voice, but your inner voice. The one that says, "I belong here. I can express myself. I can connect."
That's why asking, "Who am I becoming in English?" isn't just a question about vocabulary. It's about presence, growth, self-discovery. And all of that happens every time you open your mouth and try.
And I think it's really empowering to realize you don't need permission to become someone new in English. You don't need to wait until your grammar is perfect or your pronunciation is flawless. You're allowed to evolve through the language as you go.
Because language learning isn't just a mirror, it's also a door. It opens up spaces in your mind and your life that weren't there before. And it's up to you how you step into them.
And those steps don't have to be big. Sometimes it's just saying what you think, even when it feels clumsy. Or choosing a word that feels more you, instead of the textbook version.
Or even pausing mid-sentence to find the word, and being okay with that silence. That searching is part of becoming. It's not something to hide or rush through.
And maybe you'll look back one day and realize, wow, this version of me only exists because I learned English. Not because English changed you completely, but because it revealed something that was already inside.
That's such a beautiful way to look at it. You're not replacing who you are. You're expanding. You're giving yourself more ways to be you, more voices to speak with, more connections to make.
So the next time you sit down to practice English, or find yourself in a conversation, take a moment to notice, not just what you're saying, but who you're being.
Because English isn't just something you're learning. It's something you're living. And through it, you're discovering more of what's possible for you, in expression, in confidence, and in connection.
Thanks for joining us today on the British Accent Podcast. We hope this episode gave you a new way of thinking about your language journey, not just as a student, but as a person growing into something new.
You're not just becoming fluent. You're becoming you, in a new and beautiful way. Keep speaking, keep exploring, and we'll be back soon.
Take care, and as always, be kind to yourself along the way.